You shake a hand, hear a name that sounds like a character from a fantasy novel, and 5 seconds later, the name is gone. By the end of this video, you will have the tools to recall 10 notoriously difficult names in 6 minutes. The human brain struggles to hold on to abstract phonetic sounds. However, it is highly efficient at retaining spatial maps and visual anomalies. To improve recall, we have to deliberately convert invisible sounds into the types of visual and spatial anomalies the brain is wired to remember. Step 1 is to disregard how a difficult name is spelled. We only care about the specific phonetic sounds it produces. Take the name Sivan. If you try to memorize the spelling, the letters often don't match the sounds. We need to isolate the phonetics. Shiv, on. Next, we assign physical, tangible objects to these newly isolated sounds. Shiv becomes a tiny knife. On becomes a lawn. We picture a tiny shiv actively cutting a lawn. These mental images must be bizarre. Your short-term memory filter typically discards mundane imagery, so the picture needs to be unusual enough to register. This diagram is our spatial blueprint. We map phonetic images onto geographic features. At the forehead is Sochi, Sochil. Imagine a social butterfly on their forehead, drinking from a chill ice cube. On the eyebrows, German, German. See their eyebrows as two fuzzy German shepherds jumping a fence. For the eyes, Shivan. Picture a tiny shiv cutting a lawn under the pupils. On the nose bridge is Usnik, Ushna. Picture a tiny usher there, shouting, na. We use the nostrils for Ptolemy, Ptolemy. Visualize a tall ladder coming out of a nostril, leaning on you. On the cheeks, Dagmar. See a dagger slicing a marshmallow resting on their cheekbone. On the lips, Chrysostom, Chrysostom. Imagine a donut stuck to their lips, covered in moss and a tomato. On the chin is Thui, Thui. Picture tiny tweezers plugging a single hair from the center. For the ears, Bartholomew, Bar, Thol, Lo, Mew. Imagine a barcode on their ear that mews when scanned. Finally, the jawline for Vercingetorix, Ver, Sin, Jet, O, Rex. See a verse of poetry written in sink water being sprayed by a jet onto their jaw. These images are deliberately ridiculous. This absurdity is the mechanism that allows the brain to flag the information for long-term storage. Now we must execute this mapping process during a live social introduction. A common mistake is staring too long. If you linger on a person's facial features while building your image, you create social discomfort. The chronological sequence is simple. Hear the phonetic sound, pick one facial feature, and mentally snap your object onto it. This entire process requires only a split-second glance. Once the image is placed, return to standard eye contact. This high-speed placement anchors the memory file while you maintain outward social grace. Let's test the spatial memory map we just built. Looking at this blank diagram, what name was on the forehead? What about the cheeks and the eyes? You can likely recall the butterfly, the dagger, and the shiv, which lead you back to Sochil, Dagmar, and Shivan. To master this, execute this spatial mapping technique on the very next new person you meet, even if their name is simple. Forgetting names happens when the brain tries to store phonetic data in a system built for visual landmarks. This method aligns that information with the biological hardware already in place.